banished to a cave, a persecuted man has a vision. He sees the end of time, the return of a gentle Christ turned merciless warrior. Plague, disease, holocausts, oceans of blood, wicked beasts, and a brutal judgment day. Believers go to heaven. Unbelievers are sent to a bottomless pit of fire. This is John's Revelation, the final book of the New Testament, and millions believe his apocalypse is near, that we are the last generation before the end.
I think that we are living in the twilight of human history.
Those who have rejected God and lived selfish lives, they're cast in the lake of fire.
It's going to be horrendous.
Was John foreseeing the future of the human race, plotting a revolution against an evil empire? Or was he a man on the edge of insanity?
The book of Revelation has been the brutal book of the Bible. It basically scared the hell out of us.
Why does this ancient book still haunt us? Can we unlock the secrets of Revelation? The four horsemen of the apocalypse. It's written war and disease follow in their wake. Soon after their appearance, the wicked will be punished with eternal damnation. The righteous will be saved with everlasting life. The Book of Revelation. It is both a horror story and the promise of a paradise soon to be.
Everybody is afraid of the end of the world. Everybody's intimidated about the end of the world. What's going to happen?
Worldwide, there are 2 billion Christians. Many believe the book of Revelation is a precise blueprint for Jesus' second coming. In the United States, 55% of adults believe the Bible is the Word of God, without error, to be read literally.
Most people think that the book of Revelation is a prophecy of what's going to happen in the future.
For believers, it remains an absolutely contemporary text, just as relevant as the morning newspaper.
I'm convinced that God meant us to take it literally. And if you don't take it literally, you can't understand it. If you can't understand it, you can't be blessed by it.
The book was probably written about 60 years after Jesus' crucifixion by a man named John. His revelation came in a series of dreamlike visions. Many of these images are to this day seared into the popular imagination. John sees an angel, a messenger sent by God. A voice speaks.
Come up here and I will show you what must take place after this.
John finds himself before God. God holds a scroll fastened shut by 7 seals. The scroll contains God's secret plan for the future. John weeps, for he cannot open the scroll. A sacrificed lamb appears. This is Jesus. The Lamb opens the first 4 seals, unleashing the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. They bring war, disease, famine, and death upon the earth.
Across the world, swine flu continues to spread. In India, panic is rising, and now the country's Minister of Health has suggested the face masks should be worn only by people who have swine flu symptoms and not by everyone. Swine flu has gripped people across India and has caused a shortage of masks and antivirals. Panic has especially gripped people living in rural areas. There they have been swarming local clinics to be checked for the virus. And a Costa Rican president is suffering from the H1N1 swine flu virus. He's been quarantined at his home, but the 68-year-old Nobel Peace Prize winner expects to return to work Monday. He said he underwent tests after feeling ill, and developed a fever last weekend. He is the first head of state to contract the disease. And a plane load of Israeli rabbis and Jewish mystics had the swine flu in Israel. 50 people on board circled over Israel Monday with the passengers chanting prayers and sounding the ritual horn. Israel's health minister has confirmed more than 2,000 cases of swine flu with 5 fatalities.
We are tracking H1N1, and health officials here in the U.S. saying it's too soon to know if a one-shot vaccine for the virus will actually be effective. The U.S. is working on an inoculation that requires 2 doses, although China and Switzerland recently announced they may have a 1-dose version. We're told American officials will release their initial results from its vaccination studies and testing later this month. With me now, Dr. Kent Poltorch, who is an expert on infectious disease. All right, now, what do you think of the vaccination?
You know, I have more concern about the vaccine than I do about the swine flu. It's been rushed to market. There are high levels of adjuncts, which basically make it more potent, so they can, it's kind of an unrefined method that they use. They had to use high levels of these. I also worry about children and people who have blood-brain barrier dysfunction or it's not fully developed, which include children, pregnant women, chronic neurological illnesses, and chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. I've seen these people have been devastated by these infections.
All right, would you give it to your kids?
I definitely would not.
The 5th seal raises dead martyrs. The Lamb opens the 6th seal. The sun grows black. The moon turns to blood. Earthquakes destroy cities. The 7th seal brings a half-hour of silence, a pause before the wonders and horrors to come. John sees angels carrying trumpets. Each trumpet blast ushers in worse terrors. Hail, fire, and blood rain upon the earth. Forests are destroyed. The oceans become blood. Monstrous locusts attack any human without the mark of God on his forehead.
And I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth."
The future will be a total disaster with the collapse of our capitalistic system as we know it today, wars, massive government debt defaults, and the impoverishment of large segments of Western society. That's according to our guest today, Marc Faber. He's the editor of the Gloom, Boom, and Doom Report. So there's the gloom and the doom.
Yes.
Marc,
yes.
What are you so concerned about?
Well, I think that in the Western world we have essentially standards of living that won't go up, and government debt is rising everywhere. We have stimulus packages, we have central banks that basically will print money, not just here in the United States. They have no other option than to keep the system going. And so this will be negative for the Western world compared to emerging.
Manufacturing less. We also saw a lot of people piling into what we call the fear trade. They bought gold, they bought treasuries, there's a government debt, U.S. government debt, because despite all of this, the U.S. government is still considered the best debtor in the entire world. If anybody's going to pay you back, so far, still, it's the U.S. government.
So let's go back to the United States. So
yes.
Are you talking long-term decline and fall of the U.S. empire, or are you saying the idea that we're going to have a nice V-shaped recovery?
You're an optimist. It's fallen already. It's fallen already.
But so you're not referring to the specific recovery or lack thereof out of our current Great Recession. You're talking about long-term decline and fall.
We have to define what kind of a recovery we're looking at. We had a global synchronized boom in the period 2002 to 2007, and peak economic activity probably was reached at the end of 2006.